Good morning, beautiful mamas. Um, I'm sitting here and no one's been able to make it live today, but I do know that this work is important, that there are some of you that who really want it, and I also recognize the obstacles to actually being able to show up to something, especially something that's like on the weekend that can be really busy in this area. We had an earthquake last night, so I think there was a lot of disrupted sleep and thunderstorms. And so I still want to be able to show up for you. So I had created a whole like choreography for this class that was um, based on interaction. So I'm gonna wing it and see how well I can offer this teaching when I'm essentially just talking to myself. But what I would really love if you do watch this recording is if you could send me a message, send me an email, let me know how things land, let me know if there's bits that really landed, bits that didn't make sense. Because my job right now, I know that I have something like really incredible to offer because my experience as a mother, as this full powered mother who has so much energy, so much capacity, so much love of life. Um, I really want you all to have that too. And so the work that I'm doing right now is really to figure out how does that communicate? How does that translate? What is the form that comes in that's really going to land and be able to be digestible for you with where you're at in your mothering journey right now? So I would really, really appreciate any um, any feedback, any insights you have, letting me know how this impacts you. Um, and that way I will feel connected to you, which is the thing that really spurs all of this work on for me. So I have been really refining this methodology over the last few days. I've been often awake for hours in the night with it really just like through me, trying to make it more simple, more clear, um, more evident, so that you can first like really recognize why motherhood feels the way that it does right now, why it's such a struggle, why you feel so isolated, why there's all that guilt and shame around, um, why you're so exhausted, um, to recognize the impact that today's motherhood constructs really has on your nervous system and your body, and how to start to unwind that. So instead of motherhood being this thing that really disconnects you from yourself, it becomes this portal into a self connection like you've never experienced before. And with that self connection and that harmonization with yourself, all the conditioning that you might have endured as a child that kind of shut different parts of you down, those things get reopened and you start to come into like a level of selfhood and vitality that is beyond anything you've ever experienced. And that your child, with who they are, can really support you with, rather than feeling like they're taking you further away from yourself. You can use them as a portal to come deeper into yourself. And this work matters to me so much because, for one thing, I want mamas to be having a different experience. I really think that when I've studied anthropology, every thriving society has been based around a thriving bond between mother and child and supporting that, like that being at the center. And so everything I do is trying to really like recenter that and recognize also on a deeper level like the power of mothers to create healthy populations and that they are really the key to that. And as much as I care about you, I think I might even care about your kids even more. And so I got into this through following the neuroscience, the psychology, the developmental trauma, all of those kinds of things, like a deep dive over many years to try and figure out like what is it that my son needed to thrive. And while I think a lot of parenting approaches like gentle parenting, like attachment parenting are so much more child centric and really recognizing what children need to develop well, compared to, for example, like the parenting paradigm that we were raised in. There's a major hole, which is they discount the symbiotic connection between mama and child. They disregard how central the mother is to being the nervous system of the whole family. And it puts more demands on the mum to be constantly responsive, extremely responsive to their child, but doesn't teach them how to be responsive to themselves. And because most of us growing up didn't have this paradigm of responsive parenting, like that's not what we experienced. We don't know what it's like to be attuned to. And we're trying to give that to our children, but we only know how to do it by giving ourselves away, instead of bringing ourselves along. So that's really a big thing. So I'm distilling this whole full-powered mother framework into 3 steps, or more like 3 layers, because there's like 3, they don't kind of, you don't finish one and then go on to the next one, go on to the next one, but there's 3 layers that we work with. And I wanted to share them with you today. And please do let me know how they land, because this is a new framing and I really want to know if it's helpful for you. So the first layer I call recognize. It's really about recognizing the paradigm that you've been become a mother within, and the cultural constructs of that, the pressures, the costs, the impacts. Really looking on that kind of like more like cultural or sociological level, but also recognizing on more of a like geeky science level that reality of symbiosis between you and child, and completely breaking the myth of competing needs between mother and children. So I'm actually going to ground this in right now by reading a little bit of my book, which is called Motherhood, a Reclamation, and it's still in draft form, but I'm really happy to be sharing some of it with you today. So for this piece about recognizing what is the setup, this is coming up from the first chapter of my book, which is called How Mums Are Set Up to Lose Themselves. And there's a lot of storytelling in there. I'm very happy to share it with you, the full thing. So what I can say, I'll start here, is the advice out there on parenting these days is a huge evolution in terms of understanding the needs and healthy development of babies and children. Approaches like attachment parenting and gentle parenting draw both from anthropology, developmental psychology, and neuroscience, and constitute a child-centered philosophy of parenting. It is a big step forward from the behaviorist paradigm where children were trained to ask as little from their parents as possible. That's the one most of us grew up in, and definitely that our parents grew up in. The problem is these child-centric approaches neglect the needs of the mother. There is an abundance of instruction for how to treat your child, but very little guidance on how to treat yourself in order to support your well-being. There is almost zero recognition that these intensive mothering protocols that are so good for children were taken from societies where mothering is shared by the whole village. This piece is really, really important. That information is not widely available. But all of these things about co-sleeping, about long breastfeeding, about baby wearing, about that level of responsiveness, the co-regulation, these were all taken from societies where the village was intact. And we are trying to do that within a society that has no village, or where like another job of parenting becomes to bring that village together because it's not there available for us, or we're just trying to do it in our isolated nuclear family units, which I really think are like set up to fail under this intensive mothering protocol. So mums are under a huge amount of expectation to be exceptionally attuned to their children. Great. But without the matching commitment to self-attunement, it is no wonder that maternal mental health statistics continue to trend downwards. With the amount of demands on mums these days, not only to be exceptionally responsive to their children, but also maintain a profession for economic and or social valuing, since motherhood isn't recognised either financially or by an esteemed position in our society, there is just not enough capacity left for everyone to be taken care of. There seems to be this propaganda about women being able to have it all now, a career and a family. But it seems truer that mamas are under the pressure to do it all, facing judgment for both the choice to not have children or the choice to be a stay-at-home mum. Interestingly, I've never heard it being said that now men can have it all, a career and being an active parent. So many mothers are inadvertently faced with a choice between neglecting themselves or neglecting their children. Child neglect is socially abhorred, while maternal self-neglect is still strangely glorified. What I mean by that is the war stories that we have. Like, so much of my bonding with other mums, I was really reflecting on this week, is about how hard things are, wearing out exhaustion like a badge of honor. How many times did your child wake in the night and you're still going, and you're kind of there like half zombified, but there's like this kind of strange pride in it, and I think we've done that in order to survive. Like, it's this paradigm that we're in. But I know as soon as I actually started having way more energy, way more vitality, way more playfulness, I'm like, oh, I feel like I don't fit anymore. It's like, now that I'm not neglecting myself anymore, it's like, who are my people? And I felt a sense of shame actually for like being really well as a mum, which is something else that I really, really want to eradicate. Anyway, in her book, Brain Body Parenting, child psychologist Mona Delahooke makes a confession that is all too telling of the kind of psychological pressure and guilt mums of today are subject to. She recalls when her 3 daughters were young and she often felt overwhelmed. When my body budget was in a deficit, she writes, I'd sometimes say things I later regretted, projecting my own lack of internal resources onto my kids. Hurry up, you're making us late. Stress and exhaustion, she adds, turned me into an authoritarian and controlling mum. While Mona promotes self-compassion as a practice for parents, condemning herself as an authoritarian and controlling mum for telling her kids to hurry up feels emblematic of the perfectionistic standards our culture foists on new mothers. Few parenting books make any reference to a mum's right to her own well-being, and those who do promote self-care do it with the subtext of, you'd better regulate yourself or you will ruin your children. And by regulated, they mean being kind, calm, and receptive. So where is the space for all the other emotional states we experience as mums? We are tasked with welcoming all our little ones' big feelings and whole rainbow of emotional expression, while still having no permission for our own. It is often remarked how much easier it is to be kind and compassionate towards our children than ourselves, as if this is something innate, but it isn't. It is instead a relic of the parenting philosophy most of us were raised under, that saw emotional expression as something to be stopped as quickly as possible by any means necessary. And by that I mean excessive, like aggressive soothing, like don't cry, it's okay, you're okay. Or on the more shaming level, like our dysregulation, our emotions being seen as like disobedience or a personal failure. It is a huge task to give what you never received, especially on top of all the other demands women face in today's world. It requires a critical look at our inherited expectations of ourselves and the courage to forge a different path, one that promotes the thriving of mums and kids alongside each other. And there is the paradigm that I'm trying to bring about. So, I will also send you this first project we did in the Mama Reset, which was to write a job description for a mama, and really both to recognize what we're all carrying, both from like a holy moly, this is oppressive and impossible, but also from the place of like, wow, this is what we're agreeing, like this is what we're showing up to every day. Holy moly, like no wonder I feel stretched, and wow, go me for taking this on and still choosing this and still choosing it every day, because like it's a lot. It's really a lot. And so the second bit of recognize is to recognize actually how central you are to your whole family's well-being. I remember when my son was little and I was doing so much reading, so much research. I was a bit obsessive, and I was listening to a podcast or a book, I can't quite remember what it was, but they talked about how the mother is the nervous system of the family. And it really stuck with me. I was really curious about that. And I've come to realize through so much observation, both of my dynamic with my own son and wider family, but also through more reading and my work with other mamas, is like, and especially if you've got neurodivergent children or if you're neurodivergent yourself, like it's it just goes up a few notches, is that whatever my state is sets the tone for everyone. It sets the tone for everyone. Even to this day, my son is now 5 and he's like fairly differentiated from me. But to the point where it's like if I'm like real tense and crunchy and grumpy in the morning, as happens sometimes still, I'll be like, oh man, I just feel so tense and aggressive and like everything. So he's like, yeah, I feel it. Like, and I'm like, okay, let's see what we can do to switch this up so we can all have a good day. But for a long time, I was much less conscious of that. And what I would find is like, I'd be stressed, and then he would just be like the most difficult, aggressive, clingy, demanding child in the universe. And then I would go away and start to take care of myself, which like I had to face a whole lot of guilt and shame about. But I was really trying to do that because I was starting to understand this thing about symbiosis, and how this choice between meeting his needs or meeting mine was really not a choice at all, because we're so deeply connected, energetically, emotionally, neurologically, especially for those first 3 years, that like I used to try and take care of all his needs and then take care of mine. And I eventually reversed it because it just became obvious it was a much more efficient way to do things. So even though each time I would I'd be leaving him so that I could go take care of myself. I used to have to leave him to do that. Now I don't have to because I've discovered a whole lot of ways of taking care of myself with him around. But when I used to feel like, oh, I need to go take a break, and I would leave him with my mum or take him to daycare, and he would be really not wanting me to go. But what I would find out is within a few minutes of me leaving, he would be fine. And when I would come back, if I would actually take the time to resource myself, to go for a swim, a walk, take a nap, like anything that was going to actually resource me physically and in my nervous system, or do some energy medicine, which I learned, I would come back and he'd be a different child. He will have had a break from me, from being around this like extremely dysregulated person. And I suddenly realized, like, oh, this is good for him. It's not about me. It's about me having a break from him. It's about him having a break from me, and a break from like feeling my distress and my stress and then being worried about me. And that was what was causing the clinginess. It's not because he needed me, it's because he was feeling me not okay. And that was causing him to feel unsafe. So when I would come back and I would be okay, I'd be like, oh my gosh, you're a different child. I'm a different mama and you're a different child. And the more I observed this, and the more that I read about it and I studied about nervous system development, about energetics, about brain development in children, I was like, yeah, you cannot separate a mother's state from a child's state. And so a lot of the time, if your child is dysregulated, often what's happening, especially if they're a highly sensitive child, is they are actually feeling all the things that you don't want to feel, that you're avoiding feeling. My son Arthur is an incredible barometer for my state. He would often, as I was building my practice of self-attunement, I would know exactly how I was, what was going on in me, by looking at him and how he was treating me. If he was aggressive towards me, which was a lot, if he was demanding and anxious, I'd be like, oh, how aggressive am I being towards myself? How demanding am I being towards myself? And when he was like, when I would start to be way kinder to myself, suddenly, like, he was like the sweetest and kindest kid as well. So if I want him to be a sweet and kind kid, what is the best way to do that? It is to be sweet and kind to myself. Whoa, like that is a very, very different set of instructions for being a mum. That starts to include me as the center of his well-being, instead of like me depleting myself and eating myself away, realizing that that was actually depleting and depriving him. So that's that second part of recognition, is like, oh, you cannot separate a child's well-being from a mama's well-being. You can't. It's just, it's in the science. And so if we can just eradicate that from our mind, that there's even a choice, that it's effective ever, unless a child's like, gone down and hurt themselves, or has really, really immediate needs like that, then you can do that, obviously attend to those basic safety and physical needs from whatever state you're in. But beyond that, your state is the climate for the whole family. And so if you want your family to be a happy, good family, then your ultimate responsibility and power is to generate that within yourself. So recognize the pressure that we're under, the load that we're carrying, and recognize that power that our state has on our whole family. The next bit is reconnect. So it is, as I kind of alluded to, it is impossible to attune to yourself, to meet your own needs, to take care of yourself in order to take care of your child, if you are disconnected from your body, from your emotions, if you are in this place of override all the time, or numbness and tension, being like, oh, I don't know what I even feel right now, is a big clue. I don't know what I feel. I don't know what I need. This is often the start point of mums that I work with. They're like, I have time for myself, but I don't even know how to resource myself. I don't know what's going to be good for me. And the key here is to start to soften back into our connection with our own body, as our source of wisdom, as our compass, that will let you know exactly what you need. That will let you know, I need to pee. I need a hug. I need to release some of this tension. I really need some fun and pleasure. I really need to have some time out in nature. Yeah, it's your body that will tell you what is it, and you start to recognize through patterns of pleasure and resistance, or relaxation and tension is another way to put those things, exactly what you need. So in this moment, I would invite you into like the most basic way to connect with yourself, and I'm going to use this as a moment to deeply connect with myself as well. First thing is to notice your breathing. And it's kind of cliched, and it's not about a breathwork technique that's going to do anything or anything like that. It's just about coming back to your breath. Shows you the state of your emotions in your nervous system. Right now, as much as I can when I'm this pregnant, I notice I'm actually pretty relaxed. Like, okay, my shoulders are not up around my ears. They're pretty rolled back, which is amazing because I usually hate talking to myself like this. Usually that scares the shit out of me. I'm breathing into my belly. I'm breathing into my back. And I actually feel like pretty centered. But you might notice that there's certain parts that are really tight and you're not able to breathe into there. So the bits to notice are your chest, what's going in there, and not only are you being able to breathe in there, but are you fully able to exhale everything from there? Because when we're in this kind of like state of fight, flight, especially more like the fight state, like when we've been compromising ourselves so deeply, we don't actually exhale because we can't allow ourselves to soften. We kind of like keep this armor here, or we have this just like this hyper vigilant, like our shoulders, our back up all the time. So you can start to notice what's going on in your body, and you can notice, okay, am I breathing into my back? When I'm breathing, is it making my back ribs move if I put a hand there? Breathing, having a hand on your back. I'm just putting mine in the middle of my back here. I find it really comforting, right over my kidneys, my adrenals. Just feeling that sense of support. And breathing into there is like deeply centering and soothing. Are you breathing into your belly, your pelvis? How far down is your breath able to go? Is it going more up or is it going more down? Mine's going a little bit more up and back at the moment because I've got this big baby here. But I can still look to send some of this breath down into my pelvis as well. Pelvis, throat and shoulders are really connected. So if you're tense here, you'll also be tense down here. And so this is just with think of every inhale kind of like a stretch, and every exhale like a relaxation, like a melting of tension, and just allow a lot of that to melt. What can sometimes happen if you've been holding so much here, one, is that emotions can start to come. And if they do, I encourage you so deeply, if there's tears that come, let them flow. Let it be like, oh, here I am, coming back to myself. I'm taking this load off my system and also off my child's system, by not holding on to this anymore. And it will also start to allow the energy to flow, because what happens when we have an emotion is like this movement of energy, and if we don't feel safe enough to for that energy to move and for it to be expressed, because we've never learned actually how to do that safely, in a way that feels safe for ourselves and safe with other people, then we block it. And the way that we block it is with muscular tension and tension in our fascia. Like we're actually physically holding it. And that causes exhaustion on two levels. One, because like holding like this requires quite a lot of energy. And the second thing is because then the energy like can't flow, like it can't get through. So you have less energy circulating, and you're using so much more energy like by this clenching. So that if you're feeling really tired and depleted, one of the best things you can do to start to have a bit more energy is to actually let your emotions come. And that could be a cry, that could be a rage. One of my favorite ways to start to move things is just to and to know what's there. Like the breath is like very it's a very yin, like a very gentle way of doing it. But if you actually like have like a lot of stored tension, you're gonna need to bring a bit more charge. Like you're gonna need to to unblock this thing. You're gonna need to bring more energy to unblock it. And so what that looks like is doing like a 1 minute shake. And so what I advise people to do is see how far I can zoom out here, so you can see my legs a bit more. There we go. Is to start like banging your heels on the floor, and you can do that one at a time, or you can do both at the same time. I reverse and start to because these muscles here are your biggest muscles, and so that's where you can store a lot of charge, a lot of power. And as you do this and you get your breath going as well, breathing, make sure you keep your knees bent. If you lock your knees, that's like a handbrake on your emotional energy. So there's two ways that we often have two emergency brakes on our emotional energy. One is the knees, and one is we stop breathing so much. Whew. I'm going to get a bit breathless because I don't have so much space to breathe. So we start to go like that, and then we allow the shake to just move up more and more of our body and shake as hard as you can, as hard as you're willing, for 1 minute. And if you're willing, make some noises and shake out your face. And you even explore with tension and then relaxing. All of this just allows stuck energy to move, which both allows you to feel yourself and also to have more energy flow. And then after your breath, after your shake, after your stretching, breath movement, it's really, then you can start to feel yourself, and from that place of being able to actually feel yourself, then you're like, oh, I'm angry. And then you can start to get curious. What am I actually angry about? Anger is a sign that we have been self-abandoning like crazy, that there are important needs or boundaries that have not been honored. And to be like, oh, what is that about? What is it that I've been neglecting? The other thing to notice, so you can notice emotions, and we keep it real simple. There's just 4 primary emotions. We have pleasure or joy. We have anger. So pleasure and joy, if you feel any pleasure, that is a signal that there's a need getting met. Anger is a sign that a need is not getting met, and you need to act on the world to actually get that need met. Fear is a sign that there's a need not getting met, and you need to move yourself, or change something within yourself. You need to get out of the way of that train. You need to shrink yourself in to keep yourself safe. Because acting out there, like you don't want to fight a train. Acting out there is going to get you killed. So fear is the opposite response. And then the last one is sadness, which means that there's a need not getting met. There's nothing you can do to change that. And so sadness is that place of like grieving and letting go. So noticing what, and I would say guilt and shame are different flavors of fear. Because they both make us like want to change something in ourselves to keep ourselves more safe. And those ones are usually around some kind of like staying within the tribe, keeping our belonging. And women's nervous systems in particular, and once you're a mama, it gets even more intense, are biologically wired up to never get kicked out of the tribe. Because if you think about it, for almost all of our evolution, we did not have our own means. We are absolutely reliant on our relationships to survive, because we did not have our own way of surviving outside of other people that we depended on. This is different now. Like, it's just starting to be really different. But it's very, very new. So your body will always, unless you do like a lot of work in this, which I do recommend, it's extremely liberating. But to recognize your body will continually send you signals that to keep the harmony and keep the everything sweet at all costs, that is a core survival need. It's not. It was when you were a child. It was through your whole human history, pretty much. But now that you're a grown-up woman, it's actually not. We do not need to contort and conform ourselves anymore in order to be safe and resourced. And that's very exciting. So, we have now reconnected to our emotions, to our needs, to what's actually going on in our body, what's actually true, not our story about it, but what's actually true, what's actually there that's like asking to be taken care of so that you can be well. So then the last step is renegotiate. And this is often, this is where you need to get a little bit braver, because this is where you assert yourself in a new way. And that's why knowing that even though your body is telling you that this is extremely dangerous, and to advocate for yourself, to not keep things harmonious and smooth, to allow yourself to be on equal footing with everyone else in your family. You'll need to be on equal footing with your kids, with your partner, to recognize that that is not life-threatening. It just feels like it is. And when you do it enough times, when you stop being afraid of upsetting people, then you are free, and so are they. So renegotiation means putting your needs on equal footing with everyone else in your family. It means asserting those needs so that they actually get met, knowing that this is actually your ultimate responsibility to your family. This is your ultimate, most effective way of taking care of them, is as the nervous system of the family, is to be responsible for your own needs and emotions. And that is the biggest gift that you could give them. Biggest gift. And it's going to feel great for you as well after a bit of bravery. So that means asking for support, reaching out. And I actually encourage, and I'm still on a journey with this, like I totally understand, have more support than you need just to be able to cope a bit better. Like, what would your life look like and feel like if you were committed to not being in survival? If you were like, I get to enjoy this part of my life, and that is going to allow my children to have this imprint of life being good and enjoyable as well. Wow. What would that feel like if, like, I really let myself imagine what would it take for me to enjoy my life? Like, how would I organize my life if I knew that my enjoyment of life and my well-being, not just to cope better, but to actually thrive, was like the biggest thing that I could give to my family? What does that change? What actually would you like? I can give you a little example from my own life. I recently moved to being off grid and out in the country, and I'm pregnant, and I want to give birth in the water. I knew that I really, really wanted a big bath outside, but I didn't have the money for it. And I was just like, I know that when I'm in the bath, I'm in the water with my son. One of his favorite things to do is to like play stories with like little figurines and stuff like that. If we're just like inside in the living room playing that, I feel like I'm going nuts. Like after about 5-10 minutes, I'm just like, oh, please get me out of here. Please get me out of here. And so to stay, I have to go into override. But if we're in the bath, then I can actually be in there for like an hour or longer and enjoy it. It really, like, being in the warm water, like, changes my state. And so I was just like, okay, I could wait until I've saved up money to get this, or I could just ask and say like, hey, this would actually make a really massive difference to my well-being now. And so I got the bath. I got this huge bath because I was like, oh, let's get one that's big enough to give birth in. Let's not just get the cheap one. Let's like, and oh my gosh, it's the best thing. I love being able to take a bath under the stars, in the sun. I love being able to meet my son's like desire for these like long drawn out like role plays with figurines by being in there. I love being in there after he's asleep as a place to like be warm and connect with my partner. But I had to be really audacious and be like, okay, can I have like $700 for this bath, please? And yeah, it's been an awesome gift for all of us. So um, that's where like mothering becomes leadership, because you are seeing like things as a whole system. And that was kind of my job before I was into all this, before I was a therapist, is I was working in systems change and around sustainability. And so I take this like thing of like, okay, if I got this need met, if I had the courage to actually ask for this thing, before I'm able to provide it for myself, and it's a luxury, like I don't need it. I can cope without it, but life would be so much nicer with it. So, can I give myself permission to ask? And little caveat here, when you ask, I feel like so many of us, and this is definitely true for me, we don't ask as like an open ask. Like we only ask if we think we're going to get a yes, instead of like asking from a place of like curiosity and being willing to accept a no. So I encourage you to ask for things that will take you beyond survival. The other part, as well as asserting or asking, is about boundaries. And this will be a process, because if you have been living your life overriding your boundaries, or living your relationships, I would say, overriding your boundaries, then when you start to put them in place, people are not really probably gonna like it to start. Because they're used to not having to take you into account. They're used to just you being this kind of like service provider that will just give and give and give and give and give. And but if you want to reclaim some like energy and resource actually for yourself, so that you can show up and be the mama, the woman that you really, really would love to be, then what I say is like, you are allowed to have your boundaries, and they are allowed to have their feelings about it, whatever those feelings are. And this can be with your kids, it can be with your partner, your mother, your like whoever it is. They're allowed to have their feelings, and it doesn't mean that your boundary was wrong in any way. It just means they have some feelings about it, and they will eventually get used to it, and they will develop more respect for you. But it can be a little bit of a process. And so being able to like notice like, oh, I'm about to put this boundary, or I've just put this boundary and I've stopped breathing. I have stopped breathing because I'm bracing like crazy, and just be like, oh, okay. It feels like I might die, but I'm not going to die. No one's going to die today. At least not from putting a boundary. And just allow yourself to be like, okay, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. I'm scared. I'm definitely scared, but I'm actually safe. And the more times you do it, the more that even if they say no, if they make a protest, you can be like, yeah, I hear you. You don't like this, and that's okay. And I'm still going to hold it, because I know the cost of actually collapsing this boundary, and it's not going to be good for any of us. You don't have to say that to them, but you can say that to yourself. So, to recap all of today's teaching, thank you for listening to me. The threefold path towards becoming a full-powered mother. 1, recognize the load that you're carrying and where it comes from, and recognize the power that you have to shape your whole family through your own state and taking care of your own well-being. 2, reconnect to your embodied truth, to your emotions, so that you feel them and your child doesn't have to. They don't have to sit on your nervous system and in your musculature blocking all of your energy anymore. when I started doing this work, within 2 months, I had like 3 to 4 hours more energy a day. Was not getting to bedtime, like being like, just go to sleep because I can't anymore. I felt spacious. And it's like that sense of tension is what we are doing in our bodies. It's not like this immaterial thing, like it's very material. And when we're not spending all our money, all our energy on our money on this tension, then we have way more energy and a sense of spaciousness inside. So reconnecting with our body, with our emotions, letting our emotions move, and then reconnecting with our needs. What is it that's actually going to resource us? And then the last step, renegotiate. So it's renegotiating our expectations with ourselves, with our children, with our partners or our families, and asserting our needs and asserting our boundaries. All of this is a lot. It's like this whole big system, and I don't expect you to like be able to just kind of turn around and like implement this in one day. If you need to start somewhere, start by having moments of reconnecting with your body each day. So moments of breath, of sensing in, of a shake. That is really like a magnificent place to start. And see if you can let that awareness, that recognition of like how much your state impacts everyone else around you. See if you can start to become more aware of that in daily life. Do something that switches up your state and see what impact that it has. Notice if people around you, it feels like they're treating you like garbage. How are you treating yourself and relating to yourself in that moment? Recognize the impossible pressure that you're under, and maybe find some like little ways to take the pressure off, even if it's leaving the dishes or anything like that. Just little tiny ways, like the smallest thing you could do to relieve like a little bit of that pressure, by recognizing like that you are carrying an impossible load that a single person was never meant to carry. And if this work draws you in, please reach out. Because it's one thing to realize all these things, but quite another thing to like put them all into practice. And I know from experience that doing that on your own, without people around that are also doing this, walking the same line, is extremely challenging and can be quite isolating. So if you are interested in making these 3 shifts within yourselves, the recognize, reconnect, renegotiate, and you know that having a supportive environment to do that in would be really helpful for you, reach out to me. I'm going to be opening the waitlist for the Mama Reset, which is a 4-week program that will really like host you through these 3 steps, and do it in like a small group so that we can all like support each other and feed off each other. And like every time I do the Mama Reset, like I'm also doing it for myself. I'm deepening into this myself. I've gone really far with it. But it's like, okay, how much more could I receive? How much better could motherhood get? And allowing there to be no limits on that, especially as I'm about to be a new mama again in 3 months. I owe it to this wee girl fern growing in me to be like the most like well-nourished, well-resourced mama that I can, and to not let any shame about asking, about reaching out, stop me from providing everything I can for her and me and my whole family. So I will be walking that journey with you all as well. There'll be more information coming about it pretty soon. But yeah, if this work is calling to you, I would love, love, love to hear from you. You can respond to this email. You can message me on Facebook or on Instagram, and I would love to connect. I would love to hear how this landed for you today, what was useful, what was still a bit confusing or obscure, and if there's anything that you want to try, and if there's any way that I can support you with that. So I hope this has been really helpful for you, and that it's met you where you long to be met. And I wish you a wonderful rest of your weekend.